an awful lot of you have things to say as well about what's coming up this morning, and that is the sentencing of the Southport killer, Axel Rudakubana, who is going to be hopefully sent to jail for a very, very long time. However, he may well be treated as a juvenile because he committed his crimes, the heinous murders of those three beautiful little girls, Alice 9, Elsie 7 and Bebe 6, in a rampage that lasted for 12 minutes of sheer horror. You can only imagine what those poor children went through. Members of the relatives of his victims have said that they would like to see him rotting in jail. Life must mean life, but will it? Steven Barrett's here, barrister of some renown. Steven, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
So, I mean, I depressingly see that despite the fact that it doesn't seem right in the natural order of things, that this character, monster, whatever you want to call him, evil individual, will probably be sentenced as a juvenile. What are the sort of the comparisons with what would happen if he was not under the age of 18 when he committed these crimes, and what are the kind of the guidelines for all this?
Well, first of all, Mike, I think you're right to use the word evil. And I think we have to accept that word. I think we have to treat it as a grown-up word, not a childish word.
Yeah.
And I think we have to recognize that what happened was absolutely evil. Now, because of the way that our laws are ordered, if he'd done this 10 days after he did it, or 11 days after he did it, or if he'd been born 11 days earlier in life, he'd now be facing what's called a whole life tariff. Given I'm very well aware of the details, they are absolutely horrific. They're going to come out today. People are going to cry because what he did was just it's not conceivable to most normal people. I can't really understand how anybody could do that to a 6-year-old girl. I don't. And there were 10 others that he stabbed. We should say, Mike, just to be very clear, I think it's worth mentioning that the country should recognise hope and heroism, and Leanne Lucas and John Hayes, 2 adults who were also stabbed quite horrifically, tried to defend children. Yeah. So those are what we call heroes. So we are back to basics, Mike. We have evil and we have heroes, and we should praise those heroes, Leanne and John, as we go through this together. Because of the technicality of our rules, he's not going to be sentenced as an adult. He's not going to face a whole life tariff. What he instead will face is a life sentence, which is entirely correct. I mean, we can change all this, Mike.
Yeah.
So let's think about that. As a nation together, I'm not going to sit here as a lawyer and tell everybody what we should do and how we should punish people. To be perfectly honest, if it were up to me, I'd probably accidentally lose the key to his prison cell. Yeah. But, you know, we can have a system that we all agree on and that we like and that we think works.
Yes. I mean, I know that politicians are always squeamish about supposedly interfering, but I mean, from what I've seen of this Keir Starmer government, I believe that they've already been interfering in the judicial system, and I suspect that you do as well. And whether they do it officially or unofficially is not really the point. But surely there must be room for a Prime Minister or a Home Secretary or somebody to be able to say to a judge in a case like this crime is so heinous and so awful, and because it has been committed so close to his 18th birthday, on this occasion I will permit you to sentence this individual as an adult because he now is.
It's open to Parliament to do that, yes. And a Prime Minister who controls Parliament could have done that. He hasn't done that.
No.
But that could have been done.
I think people will be dismayed at the very least, and possibly angry that he hasn't done that.
Well, I think that's perfectly legitimate if they are. He's had lots of time to prepare for today. Let's make sure there's no criticism of Mr. Justice Goose, the judge. He's just going to have to use the system that the Prime Minister has allowed to continue to exist. You know, that's and so the judge really is, and bless him, he will know more details than any of us. So he will have seen things that, I mean, even I don't want to know about.
Yes. So will we learn more then at the sentencing hearing, and we will be able to read about that in the papers in the morning, presumably?
Yes, I think so, and I think there'll be pictures. I've seen pictures, and they're very traumatic. This was evil. There's just no other way I can describe it. But just to get back to the detail, Mike, the starting point for the life. So he'll get a life sentence, and then there's what's called a minimum term. And the starting point for that will be 27 years.
Right.
Now, his crime is so horrific that I think it must be more than 27 for the minimum term. I can't believe the judge. We'll see what the judge does, but I personally would guess the judge will go higher than 27. Right. There's a technicality. He pleaded guilty on the day of trial. And if you plead guilty, well, early, really early, you can get a 30% discount on your sentence. If you plead guilty on the day of trial, you can get a 10% discount on your sentence. I think, to be absolutely honest, Mike, he did this in a horrific way. I think the families were already traumatized, and I would invite, or I hope the judge will not give him any discount for pleading guilty.
Yes, because again,
basically,
I think that would be wrong. Totally wrong.
Well, it was basically at the last possible second, and he hadn't put in a defense.
Right.
In many ways, he was playing us for fools. He pled not guilty, and we are a beautiful and lovely country, so we treat people as innocent until they've pleaded guilty because we are noble. And he basically played against that. He took us for fools on that, and because he was always guilty. We all knew he was guilty, but you know that was a ridiculous thing. So I seriously hope the judge doesn't give a 10% discount, but his counsel will no doubt, his barrister will do the best for him he can, because that's what barristers do. And his barrister will no doubt ask for it, and we'll just have to see what the judge does. Given
so are you saying the maximum he can get is 27 years?
No, that's the starting point.
Okay.
I think there is no technical maximum, but anything the judge... So again, I'd probably sit there. This is one good reason why I probably shouldn't be a judge, but I'd probably give him a minimum of 80 years or something, just to see what the Court of Appeal did.
Yeah.
But I think this is a very serious judge, and this judge, I think, in my view, just to give your viewers and listeners a figure, adding it all up, dotting all the I's, crossing the T's, I think it's going to be around 34 years as a minimum term.
Okay. And that would allow him to apply for parole at what point?
After those 34 years.
Oh, so not after 2/3 of those 34 years?
No, it's better than that.
Yeah.
One of the problems I think your viewers and listeners need to discuss, one of the problems I think the nation needs to discuss, I've raised it before and I'll probably raise it again, is that then goes to this thing called the parole board, who are these alleged experts who have tried to let free people who are pretty seriously dangerous and who should not have been let free. And who
have let free several people recently who have had to be recalled on account of the fact that they are still dangerous.
Yes. So what I would like to share with the nation is that the parole board is not, in my view, a trustworthy body.
No.
That you should leave this stuff to.
Exactly.
It should go to a minister, and then if the minister messes up, it used to be with the Home Secretary, this type of thing.
Yes.
And then if the Home Secretary messes up, you can sack them.
Right.
You and I we can go in the media, we can call for them to be sacked. No, nobody on the parole board, as far as I'm concerned, has ever faced any justice for their own incompetence.
Well, we don't even know who they are. We're not allowed to know who they are, and that's part of the problem with the system. But, Stephen, I really appreciate your time. We haven't got a lot of it this morning, I'm afraid, but you've very eloquently explained precisely what will happen. That's Steven Barrett, barrister.